Hey, welcome everybody. I want to thank you for joining me today, whether you're doing it live or whether you're doing it through the recording. I really want to get right down into what we're talking about today because there's a lot to cover, a lot of things that I call spin mode, which is triggers that put us into spinning so that it's hard to move forward. But I'm going to give you practical ways to exit spin mode from all of those different triggers, 10 different triggers. But if you're here today, you're probably here because you're purpose driven. You have something that is driving you to achieve, to excel, to find the success that you want. So I want to provide you with some insight, some learning, but especially some very practical skills and approaches to really moving forward in a more productive and effective manner. So our focus today, as I've said, is stop spinning, start winning. If we get stuck in these cycles, or what I call spin mode, it's going to be difficult to get very many productive things done. And it can eat up a lot of our time, our resources. So I want to just jump right into this and start to look at what is this we're talking about. You know, my background, psychology, neuroscience, this EQFIT Activate thing, I'll spend just a second talking about that. It's a process where I bring people in, give them a robust package of assessments to bring absolute clarity to where they are, and then do an intensive 6-week coaching process to help them create the mindset for themselves, for their success, which is going to be custom. We're all different people. And then the roadmap to get to the future that they want. That's what I do for people. But let's now get into this spin mode thing. Have you ever felt stuck, plateaued, paralyzed? You're just in that place where you don't feel like you can move forward. You're struggling. We've all been there. And there's nothing wrong with finding yourself in that spin mode because it happens to all of us. The key is, how long do you stay in spin mode? Because there are effective ways to find exit ramps to get out of that spinning. We have 4 critical resources that we completely control. What are those? It's how we spend our time, our energy, our focus, and our effort. Those are our 4 primary resources, and it's critical that we use those well. Now, as I go through this, if you want to put something in the chat, I will check that from time to time. I'm kind of going between my notes and the chat, so if I don't pick up on that for a while, you know, a little grace, please. I'm not spinning. I'm trying to win here. So I appreciate all of that. And feel free, if you're joining us, let me know, you know, where you're coming from, what's going on with you. And so back to this spin mode and our resources. Anytime you find yourself in one of these spin mode cycles, you're going to find that some of those resources are getting wasted. The goal is to not waste them as much as possible. So today we're going to talk about the 10 triggers that put people into spin mode. We're going to talk about the impact of each of those. And we're also going to talk about exit strategies. How do we get out of that spin mode? Now, you leader in your organization, you may be an entrepreneur, you may be a salesperson, wherever you are in life, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, you may be a grandparent, maybe you're retired. We can still be productive, and we can be more productive. What I know to be true from my decades of work in psychology and neuroscience is that the more that we're aware of our patterns, of our habits, of what puts us into spin mode, the better equipped we are to manage that and exit out of those times when we're just spinning and not winning. So let's go ahead and jump into What are these triggers? Well, usually what happens is they're emotional triggers. The brain, the brain works in very specific ways. You have something you experience, and that creates a thought. From that thought, you attach meaning to that thought. So whatever the meaning is, you attach to it. That could have some bias. You may have some bias around that meaning that you attach to your thoughts. Those two things then generate emotions. And then your emotions impact your self-talk, the decisions you make, the actions you take. So the emotions are literally the bridge to whether you're going to go more into spin mode or stay in a more productive mode, more focused, more productive with your time, energy, your focus, your effort. Here are some to think about. So when you feel disappointment, uncertainty, fear, anxiety, confusion, stress, when you're feeling some of those things, you're probably entering into one of the following 10 spin modes. And we'll talk about what those look like here in just a minute. I'm going to take them one at a time and explain what they are, what the impact of those are, and how we can get out of those. And I hope you'll just kind of use this as a resource to identify when you are likely to be in one of those places where you're spinning and not moving forward well. Because not all of these are going to apply to everyone. But I would imagine that at least 2 or 3 of these will be areas you're more likely to experience yourself. Let me spend a second and talk about something I call the energy exchange. When you wake up in the morning, you have 100% of your energy to spend. Now, some days are better than others, and I get that, okay? Some days 100% is less than other days. But what happens is energy goes internal first to deal with whatever you're dealing with internally. Fear, frustration, that conflict that's going on, that deal that may or may not go through, whatever it happens to be, we start to layer on these different things. Every one of those layers that we put on takes a little bit of our energy. What's left over after that layering process, as we wake up and get our day started, what's left over is then available for external effort. So the more emotional load that you're carrying, the less energy you're going to have for external efforts. It's as simple as that. It's important to understand the energy exchange, because I'm sure there are days you get to 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you go, I'm done. That's it. No more. And that's because there's just so much that has been layered on, or maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or something happened that reduced the amount of energy that's available for the things that you need to do and want to do. That's the energy exchange. So let's dive into these 10 triggers and these spin modes that keep us from winning, from moving forward. And as we go through this, just kind of identify which ones resonate the most with you. Here's the first one, information overload. Now, one of the things I said in the announcement is I'm going to talk to you about a story. A guy, let's just call him David. David came out of corporate and was starting his own business. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. He is an entrepreneur now. And David's not his real name. I never use real names in this, but David is somebody's real name, maybe yours. David, the first spin mode that happened was this one right here. When he was in corporate thinking about how to open up his new business and do his coaching and consulting that he wanted to do, well, the immediate thing that happened was he started to research. Isn't that what we all do, right? We start to look on the internet and do research, and maybe we leverage AI to learn new things. The problem with that is you can get too much information. That's where David found himself when we started to talk. And so he was in this information overload place. Here's what happened. It's too much data can bring us a lack of clarity. You would think more information would bring us more clarity, but that's not accurate. The more information that we bring in, the less we're able to focus on any of that information for any significant period of time, which means we're just getting into information overload. And what happens in that is we waste a lot of time. We have scattered focus. It's this way and that way and this way. And it drains our energy. And David could have started his business months and even years earlier had he had more clarity and focus, but he was still in that research and learning mode. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you never move forward, that can be a real problem. And this was one of the big challenges. This was definitely a spin mode for David, and it may be for you as well. How do we get out of information overload as kind of a spin mode? I like to use the rule of 3 priorities. So you put 3 priorities in place, number 1, number 2, number 3, and you put decision deadlines on each of those. And then you put in filters so that you stay true to those priorities. That will help you get out of information overload spin mode. Let me jump to the next one and talk about that. So the next one, I think a lot of people struggle with, and that's perfectionism. Well, okay, what's a big deal about that? We want things to be right. Well, this is another one that a different person, I'm going to call her Rebecca. This was one of Rebecca's big things that she was stuck in. She's coming out of accounting in corporate and wants to start her own bookkeeping business. And as I was talking to Rebecca, it became very clear that she thought everything had to be perfect and flawless before she could start her own business and get new clients and get things moving forward. Well, this waiting for things to be perfect just paralyzes people. As I say here, perfect is the enemy of good. We just need good. We don't need perfect. What are the emotions that may be tied up in that? There's anxiety, there's self-doubt, there's fear, especially fear of failure. Well, if it's perfect, it'll succeed. Not necessarily. You can be perfect and it still might not succeed, which is why we need to just move forward with good enough. What are the impact here? Delays, our effort may be pointed in the wrong direction, very little progress, though the impact can really hold people back. And so how do we solve this one? What I call the 80% rule. If it's 80% good, it's good enough to move forward. Perfection is, you're just never going to hit perfection, and you don't want to. Celebrate the small wins along the way. You can always adjust as you're moving forward. It's much easier to redirect someone who's moving than to get someone up and get them moving. And that goes for ourselves. It's much easier for us to adapt and move in a little bit different direction if we're moving versus getting ourselves up so that we move in the first place. So that's the second one I want you to think about that really can put people in spin mode. And this was Rebecca's challenge. So let's go to the next one. The next one is one that a lot of people struggle with: conflicting priorities. Everything feels urgent. So you have all these things demanding your focus, your energy, your time, your effort. But the problem with that is it's not all really truly important. And if it's the tyranny of the urgent, I'm sure you probably heard that term. Everything feels urgent, so nothing's really a priority. Emotions are frustration, maybe guilt. What's the impact? It splits our focus. The decision fatigue starts to set in because you've got all these things that are demanding your attention and you're trying to make all these decisions, and you just get weary of constantly juggling all that stuff. And there's a lot of wasted effort that goes into this conflicting priorities thing. Now, I've shown you the solution here, what's called the Eisenhower matrix. And I think the key here is, if you could only do one thing today, what would it be that would move the needle the most? That is really focusing in on clarifying our values and using that one thing question as a filter so that we can get out of spin mode here with conflicting priorities. Okay, that's almost an oxymoron, right? Conflicting priorities, because nothing's a priority if everything's urgent. So just think about, do you get stuck with, oh, I should do this, but no, I should do this first, or wait a minute, maybe that thing. A lot of times, especially in our world today, with social media and doom scrolling and our attention spans reducing and all of that, it is so easy to fall into this one because we don't really have clarity based on our values about how to set those priorities. What is truly important and urgent and what isn't. So just some thoughts about that one, that spin mode, and how to get out of it. I think the next one may be a little more subtle, but maybe a lot more prevalent than most people think. And that is lack of boundaries. I learned about midlife, I guess, when I was in my 30s and 40s, I learned how to say no, which was one of the best things I ever learned. Because I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to do whatever I could to support them, to help them get where they want to go and all. That's just my heart. That's what I'm passionate about. But without boundaries, there's no balance. And then that energy exchange thing really hits. And so much of our energy gets drained. When you have constant interruptions, when you have all kinds of things you've committed to, where you're not setting good boundaries, where you don't really use the word no very much, you're constantly in reaction mode. And that is not a good place to operate from. It literally is almost a spin mode all by itself. You're just constantly reacting to things. What's the impact? Lost time, drained energy, scattered effort, scattered focus, a huge impact on those 4 critical internal resources. How do we get out of this? We say yes to less. That's kind of like saying no, right? So say yes to less, then use time blocking. If you have important things to do, set boundaries around those times and then adhere to those boundaries. Boundaries are very important for us to live our lives well. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, good fences make for good neighbors. That's a boundary. There's a reason we have boundaries in our lives, and there's nothing wrong with them. Buffer zones. Create buffer zones. Create some margin in your life. If I had $1 for every time somebody said to me, I'm too busy to do something that was going to help them, I would be a rich man today. I'm a rich man in many ways, but I'd be a rich man in wealth today if that was the case. The bottom line is that we need to have some margin in our lives. That's only going to come when we set good boundaries. And that is a really good way to help us not get stuck in spin mode around all of these commitments we've made and things that we just feel like we need to do those things. Just say yes to less. So what's the next one? Let's talk about fear of the unknown. This was huge for Rebecca, trying to start her own bookkeeping business and really get up to speed in that. There's a lot of unknowns, right? Our world is constantly changing. There's a lot of uncertainty. And she got stuck in these what if loops. Oh my gosh, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? So she was projecting herself into the future over and over and over, with all of these different scenarios that most likely won't happen. But it took up so much time, and it really triggered fear and insecurity for her. And that caused some real challenges for her. Um, Again, she could have started her bookkeeping business years ago had she not been stuck in this loop, the perfectionism and then the fear of the unknown. And those two things feed each other. The more that there's uncertainty and unknown, the more that you want to make things perfect so everything will be good and you'll know everything. We're not going to ever know everything. It just doesn't work that way. So what's the impact of this? What we call rumination. You just cycle over and over and over and over about these what if scenarios and the emotions that come with that. By the way, little neuroscience for you. Emotions will diminish in intensity in 6 seconds in your brain. Well, then why do I still feel anxious about this thing? Because you keep revisiting it. And every time you revisit it in your mind, you'd re-trigger the emotion. If you do it enough, the emotion intensity goes up, it gets stronger. You're building a neural pathway around a pattern that you really don't want to build. So the more that we can effectively navigate our emotions, the better off we're going to be. So don't get into that rumination. So much wasted energy in that. Okay, what's the solution here? Stop, breathe, take worst case scenario, best case scenario, and then likely scenario or likely analysis. So instead of just going through a million different things that might or might not happen, what's the worst case? What's the best case? And what's the most likely to happen? That will get you on a much better pathway and get out of this spin mode that is being caused by fear of the unknown. Use your values. So value driven action and direction, and then just small steps. You don't have to take giant leaps here. Small steps in the right direction. If you don't like what's happening, go a different direction, but at least you're moving, and at least you're moving forward. So the next one I want to focus on, these 10 different spin modes, is emotional baggage. And this is a huge one for most people. Whether we realize it or not, we all carry a level of emotional baggage, emotional load. And that emotional load is literally what it sounds like. It's weighing us down. And we have to put energy toward that to help us keep moving forward. So why do we do that? Well, it may be past failures that hijack the present, right? We tend to, let me put it this way. If you're driving in a car, the rear view mirror is only this big, but the windshield is very big, right? We should be looking forward most of the time, not looking backwards. Because if we're constantly looking in the rear view mirror, who knows what we're going to run into, right? We need to be able to look ahead, and we need to be able to move forward. The emotions that could be here, shame, regret, different kinds of emotions can drive us into this spin mode. No pun intended with drive us. But the emotional baggage thing is a big deal. And this was a big one for both David and for Rebecca as they were trying to start their own business and really started to grow. Lost time, reduced effort, diminished internal resources. A lot of things happen when you're carrying a heavy amount of emotional baggage. How do we solve this? We reframe the past as data, something we can learn from, something we can grow from. We externalize through journaling, through talking to somebody else. So don't just keep it all in here, right? Let's get it out on paper. Let's get it out on our computer as in a journal, or let's talk to somebody that we trust about that. Shift from what if I fail to what can I learn? If we can take that going forward, we can get out of spin mode when it comes to emotional baggage. The next one to look at is analysis paralysis. We've all heard this, right? What is this? It's overthinking instead of acting. It's just analyzing and analyzing. Now, depending on your personality style, you may be very comfortable analyzing things. And that may be a comfort zone that you like and that you just want to stay in. The problem is, as my very good friend, Dr. Chuck Coker says, growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. So we're not really going to grow if we're not willing to push the boundaries on our comfort zone, and sometimes even just get out of our comfort zone. What are the emotions here? Doubt, tension, stress, those kinds of things. The impact, time, focus, energy, all of those get wasted in these mental loops that we're just analyzing and analyzing and analyzing and not taking action. How do we get out of this? Set deadlines, limit your choices. That's key to this. Don't just constantly look for more options or choices. Limit your choices and then think, what is the next right step? Okay, so use that as a filter here. What's the next right step that I can take to move forward? And then you can get out of spin mode when it comes to analysis paralysis. The next one we want to look at is misaligned values. This is a little bit more nuanced, but it is very powerful in our lives. It's inner conflict that blocks our action. So if we don't have our values aligned with our decisions, our actions, and all the other things in our life, our values, what we hold dear, may actually be holding us back from taking the action that we want if we don't have our decisions and actions and everything else aligned correctly. Our values should be our drivers. Our deepest held beliefs and values and standards that we hold our decisions and actions up to are the drivers. They are the core of our internal motivation. And if there is conflict there, your internal motivation is going to be significantly reduced. That is the motivation you can count on in tough times. And so you see people that you say, boy, they really have grit. They have persistence, right? That comes out of sticking closely to their beliefs, their values, the things that they hold dear, and using that as the filter and the driver for their decisions and their actions. What are the emotions here? Guilt, frustration, anxiety. What's the impact? You lose time. You're wrestling with things all the time. You feel drained from an energy perspective. So what's the solution? Clarify your values. And are they truly your values? I'm not going to get into that. I'll do this in another LinkedIn Live where we really dive deep into values and beliefs, because I think that's such a critical aspect here. But clarify your values, and are they authentic to you? Are they truly your values, or are you just trying to adopt something from somebody else? There's a difference between an adoptive value, an aspirational value, versus an applicational value. Are you applying it? Is it that important to you that you're committed to that value? Clarify your values and then use integrity-driven choices. Be true to your values and the choices that you make. That is a great way to get out of spin mode here when you feel like there's just chaos or conflict when it comes to your values. And that's where the skills of emotional intelligence will help you greatly through all of these. And emotional intelligence is just another part of neuroscience. I mean, it's proven science. It's not some mystical thing or some strange, weird new age thing. It's proven science. So let's move on to the next one. Negative self-talk. Most people that I work with and talk to have some level of negative self-talk. Now, let me describe this very clearly for you so that we don't go in the wrong direction here. If we're not happy with something in our lives or something we've done, our self-talk may be a little bit negative. I'm talking about judgment, self-judgment, self-criticism that is not helpful. This is not be positive all the time and fake it till you make it. That's not what this is. This is being very aware of your self-talk. Remember when I said you have a thought, you attach meaning to the thought, then your emotions are generated, and then that your self-talk comes out of those things. Self-talk is a profoundly powerful part of your life. So be aware of what it is. If you find it to be more negative more often, ask yourself why. Self-criticism erodes your confidence. It creates self-doubt. What are the emotions here? Insecurity, discouragement. This was a big one for David and for Rebecca when they were starting their own business and trying to kind of get it up and going. They had a lot of negative self-talk. Oh, this didn't work today and that didn't. And I'm saying, guys, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Let's celebrate the small wins along the way. Let's enjoy those small wins and move forward effectively. That's what's important here. It isn't being false with yourself, but it's also not beating yourself up. Sometimes I think we're our own worst critic, and how much do you really want to beat yourself up? Let's be honest. The world will be happy to do that for you. So maybe don't do as much of that yourself. It creates emotions of insecurity and discouragement and doubt. What's the impact? It reduces your effort. It literally takes away from the energy that you have to do your effort, and your focus just gets wasted. And so that's why self-talk here in a negative fashion is so important for us to think about. How do we solve that one? Reframe. You go from I can't to how can I? I can't do that yet is a much better response than I can't do that or I'm no good at that. Maybe it's just add that little yet at the end of that self-talk. That is a different outlook, and it's a forward looking outlook where you can start to have some okay, then what do I need to do so I can be better at that? Is it worth investing something to be better at that? This is really important. And then don't hesitate to affirm yourself. I know a lot of people, well, okay, just all positive thinking. No, it's not about that. If you've got small wins, celebrate them. I'm terrible at that. I like the big wins, right? I'm not really good at celebrating the small wins, but I realize that pattern in me needs to change. I need to celebrate every small win. That builds up my energy and recharges me. And so I try to do better at that. Use some self-compassion. Use some self-empathy when it comes to it. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, we're getting to the last one here, which is lack of recovery. A lot of people won't think about this one. This is really important. No rest means no resilience. If you don't and rest is not just sleep. It's true rest and recharging. It's self-care. If you don't get that, you're not going to be resilient. You're not going to be as adaptive. You're not going to be as innovative. You're going to be more irritable. You're going to have more apathy. It's like, why bother? It's a pain. It's not going to work. I'm tired. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm done. Leave me alone. Yeah. Let's find ways to get out of this spin mode, because it really hurts our time, our focus, our energy, our effort, every single one of those resources. It just reduces them. And it makes you feel like it doesn't matter what you do. it's not going to help. And I don't want anybody to get into that spin mode. What's the solution here? Well, number one, make sure you're getting enough sleep and enough movement. Maybe that's exercise. I walk every morning. Those morning walks are really important to me. It's movement. At my point in life, just being able to get up and move is a good thing. And it really does kind of help work out some of the aches and pains and all of that. But I also try to get a minimum amount of sleep every day, but also take micro breaks during the day. Neuroscience tells us for sure that we shouldn't work more than 60 to 80 minutes at a time with 10 to 15 minute breaks in between. That is when we can be at our optimum. Okay. If you're having meetings that are going longer than 90 minutes, don't do that. It just find ways to put breaks in there, find ways to refresh people, yourself and others. Here's some other things: gratitude, prayer, meditation. All of those things can help you recover and restore your energy. So as I kind of bring all of this together, we've talked about the different triggers, right? Now I want to talk about breaking out of spin mode, just from a larger perspective here. What can we do? First, if we want to hit the reset button and break out of spin mode, we got to recognize the triggers and the emotions that put us into spin mode in the first place. When are you in overwhelm or doubt or fear? Awareness is the first step. The second step here is you've got to release it. You've got to step back, take a breath, create a space to reset. This is when reframing can happen, and you can start to reframe it in your mind. I just talked to someone today that had a major loss in their business and what they're doing. And we had a wonderful time together today, helping him reframe and reset so that he can move forward more productively. And this thing may turn out to be a fantastic pivot time for him and his business. This releasing interrupts the spin cycle. It's a great way to say, stop, breathe, hold on. I am not going to allow myself just to spin and spin. Then refocus your time, your energy, your focus itself, your effort on what matters the most instead of what feels the most urgent. What is truly going to move the needle the most? So think outcomes, think results, right? Not just what you think you should do or what feels right to do. Put some metrics around it. What's really going to make a difference? And then the last step here is re-engage. That's important. We need to re-engage with whatever it is we're doing, taking the next right step forward. And not 10 steps, not the perfect step, just the next right step forward. This is a formula to break out of any of these spin modes, whatever they happen to be. So let me kind of share with you what I believe I bring to the table. This is not the sales pitch moment. This is just what I think is important. Whether you do it on your own or whether you do it with somebody like me, get clarity so you have a clear path forward. Create your unique success mindset. The people that are out there promoting, this is the mindset you need to be successful. Okay, maybe some of that is helpful, but we're all different backgrounds, culture, experience, knowledge, education, skills, talents, gifts, abilities, competencies. We're all different, right? So your success mindset should be customized to you. And then take confident action, because clarity brings a better mindset that you can develop for yourself, which then puts you in confident mode, not spin mode, that you can take confident action moving forward and build those powerful habits that are going to serve you for the long term. This is not just about success for today or tomorrow. This is about sustainable success. How can I sustain my success over long periods of time? And you do this through this process. You can unlock clarity, confidence, and the results that you really want through this kind of a process. And it starts with, let's get out of spin mode. Let's get away from all of that and move toward something more productive and more positive. Scrolling at the bottom are different resources I'm providing at no cost to you. It's a way to get in touch with me at my email address or through our website. If you want to take this further into a discovery conversation where we just talk about you and what you want to accomplish, a conversation doesn't cost anything but a little bit of your time. I would love to have conversations with people about what the EQFIT Activate process can do. And you've seen a good portion of it and what it can do for people today. The main thing I want to leave you with is this. If you can understand that you're in spin mode, you can take some of these practical applications to exit out of spin mode so that you can build a bridge to the future that you want. And I want everybody to be in that place where they're in spin mode less and they're moving forward more productively and sustaining success over the long term. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have that conversation with you. I hope this has been helpful today. I'm going to look really quickly at the chat. I don't see a lot in there right now. So I'm going to end the stream, but